Today's episode is brought to you by Mazars.
SoundCartel.
From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. We know that customer service can make or break a business. So why do so many businesses seem lacking in that department? Jaquie Scammell is a customer service expert and founder of ServiceQ. For more than 20 years, she's trained thousands of customer-facing staff in industries including healthcare, finance and retail. Her book, Service Habits, 21 Habits to Transform Your Service Culture, is a treasure trove of insights. First, Chris Ashmore asks Jaquie whether businesses are finding it hard to prioritise customer service.
We tend to focus on the urgent and important in businesses, particularly small businesses, and customer service often doesn't feel like it's urgent. It's one of those things that if we're serving the product or we're getting the solution to the customer, sometimes that's the best that we can do and it's enough. And so knowing where to start and what to do, I think, is one of the barriers to prioritising customer service.
Well, maybe an obvious question, Jaquie, but why is customer service so important?
Well, it's a feeling, isn't it? You know, when you think about being a customer yourself, when you experience a particular business or brand, you're always measuring up how you were treated. So there's typically three elements to customer service. There's tasks, tangibles, and the treatment. And it's the treatment part, how you feel when you experience a business or brand, that we're always weighing up and judging as customers. And so this is why it's important, because sometimes it's that feeling that's enough to go back to a business or brand, even if we didn't quite get what we wanted. But it can also be the reason why we never go back.
Was customer service perhaps easier in days gone by? And if so, why have things changed?
Yeah, well, because the world has changed. And I remember having a conversation with you, Chris, years ago, and the lens on customer service was different then to what it is now. When the fabric of society changes the way it has, post-health crisis and pandemic, we, as customers, we want more. We expect more, so our levels of expectations have gone up, but equally our tolerance levels have come down. And so these subtle shifts and changes that we've all experienced in society are impacting the way we feel about what we're entitled to and, you know, what type of treatment we deserve. But I also think the flip side to that is the employees, those that are giving customer service, are also probably weighing up what matters to them, and they're probably a little tired, a little exhausted, maybe a bit stressed out themselves. And so we're seeing this really interesting juncture point of customer service right now where we've got overworked, overtired, potentially overwhelmed employees serving customers who want more for their money or their time and have little patience, certainly less than they had a few years ago. So I think it might have been easier in days gone by, Chris, to help people experience a good service, to make people feel good about customer service. But I think the stakes are a lot higher now and the demands are a lot higher.
Well, if a business is looking to improve on its customer service, how do they do that? Is it big sweeping changes or something else?
Not at all. The best way to approach customer service is small, tiny little steps. And the key is sticking to it and treating it like a practice. So no day is the same, you know, when it comes to humans. And every human sometimes dishes up different things and unpredictable behaviours. And so each day we have to practice these small, tiny steps. And it's a large part of certainly the philosophies and training that we bring in my business is all around people's mindsets, it's around people's habits, it's around the behaviours of the employees. And employee behaviour is tricky to change, it's tricky to influence, and it's certainly not something you can do in a one-day workshop or a big change. Changing human behaviour takes small, tiny little steps over time that eventually you start to see human behaviour shift and change.
Well, you address a lot of this in your book called Service Habits, 21 Habits to Transform Your Service Culture. If we can have a look at some of these habits, one in the book you mention is look the part. What do you mean by that?
There's a lot to be said about first impressions with customer service. In fact, if I quote Amy Cuddy, who wrote the book Presence, and she studied at Harvard the whole idea of first impressions. And she says quite simply that it takes 7 seconds for you to make a first impression. And what happens within those 7 seconds is the person that's experiencing you or observing you, they're judging or weighing up two things. Can I trust you? And do I respect you? And it's pretty incredible to think that even without words exchanged, we very quickly, just by someone's first impression, start to make decisions around trust and respect. So in a service role, particularly one where you're either front-facing digitally or behind a counter, serving customers, meeting customers, you're making those first impressions each time you meet a customer. So looking the part is all about dressing for success, the way you present yourself, both clothing, physically, but also your body language, the smile, the eye contact. All these tiny little non-verbal cues before you even open your mouth and start speaking is already giving an impression to the customer. And if a customer in those first 7 seconds starts to feel that they respect and trust you, then the interaction may be a little bit smoother. If they don't, then it just is another little hurdle for them to, jump over. And we want to remove those barriers in customer service. That's one of the goals. So, look the part's all about look ready to serve, look impressive, and remember that speaks volumes in 7 seconds.
Another rule that you mentioned in the book, which resonated with me, was about bending the rules. Can you explain what that's about?
Yeah, so service is all about, as I said before, removing the barriers. And one of my definitions of customer service is to use good judgment in any situation that's critical to a customer. Therefore, sometimes the rules that are in place in businesses aren't always suitable or relevant to a situation. And it's incredibly important that employees and our team members, our staff, feel empowered and have the permission to bend rules, bend the blue rules, to suit a situation because they're making a judgment call that requires something different, some adaptability or flexibility in a scenario. But, ultimately rules exist to serve people, not to enslave. And I've never seen an operations or procedure manual that's up to date. I think so many scenarios and situations are new. And so we need to know what are the hard, non-negotiable rules, which we would call red rules, where you just simply cannot bend or break. They're there to exist because they're legal or they're reputational rule for the company, or they're going to put someone in harm if that rule is broken. But blue rules are rules that are related to procedures, policies, like a refund policy or an exchange or a procedure where you're not meant to be in a certain area, but this one time you're going to change it or bend it. Blue rules are rules that you can bend. And it's such a great habit to think about in the context of customer service because, as I said, service is all about using good judgment, which means sometimes we've got to make a judgment call that we hadn't planned for.
Are there any organisations or any businesses that you see that their customer service is quite exemplary?
I'm certainly seeing a lot of businesses putting in more effort, more time and energy into customer service than I've ever seen before. I feel like we're in this really interesting time in this era where, particularly off the back of the last, few years, people have realised we've let our customer service go, or we've been so busy in survival mode that we haven't had the space to nurture our existing customers. So the timing right now is incredibly unique. and businesses who are focusing on customer service now, that they're preparing themselves for the next catastrophe or crisis.
That was Jaquie Scammell, founder and CEO of ServiceQ. This episode of Business Essentials Daily is produced by the team at SoundCartel. Thanks for listening. I'm Nicole Goodman. We'll bring you more Be Daily tomorrow. Follow at BE Daily Podcast across social media and head to bedaily.com.au for more from the Business Essentials Daily podcast. SoundCartel. This episode was brought to you by Mazars. To find out more, visit mazars.com.au. That's mazars.com.au.